Hello everyone, welcome to my table, and today we are talking about some D&D homebrew that took me a while to make. We're talking about Slime Rancher! Slime Rancher has been a comfort game for me since I first played it in 2017. I still remember buying it on launch day, and since then it's become one of my personal favorite games. I played through some of the roughest parts of my life, over and over again. When I got extremely ill in 2017, taking care of my brother when he got hurt, getting back into the world after a year of being completely isolated, so much, I still played Slime Rancher. I wish I honestly could have afforded the Slime Rancher Special Edition, but I never got to, sadly. The coin bank will ever elude me. Maybe one day eBay will grant me my wish once I have the new books. The slimes were actually some of my favorite things to print on my 3D printer before it broke. I just do not have good luck, do I? Now I'm far from a newbie when it comes to Slime Rancher, but if I wanted to get this video out before Christmas, which I don't even know will happen, I in no way can cover everything in Slime Rancher. At least not all at once. If this does well, I most likely will cover everything else I missed in this PDF, that is over 40 pages mind you, and it took me over a month and a half to make. It took me a while to find good PNGs of the things in the game and the official art, and I even had to make some of my own using Photoshop. Today, I will be covering the stat blocks of slimes, plorts, the vac pack, the foods, slime tastes, locations, and slime expansion, special creatures, items and NPCs, and maps. I will also let you know if something seems off in this homebrew, or you have suggestions for changes or anything, please let me know in the comments. I will always have room to improve. The PDF is pretty much for the DM, if they have knowledge of Slime Rancher, for them to run an early game adventure in the far range. I would suggest starting the players at around level 2 to 3, but if you want to start them at level 1, that's fine as well. This stuff is meant to be used in the far range setting, but it can be used elsewhere with some tweaking. In this PDF, I had made new bucks become gold for use, as well as replacing the term Earth with the term Abitoro, the setting for the Forgotten Realms, so it can easily be substituted. However, that can be substituted for your homebrew world as well, and please know I probably mispronounced that world for the Forgotten Realms. Right before we begin, I would like to let you know that these PDFs are available in full for Patreon supporters, as well as I got a merch store now with a Darkness&Dragons logo t-shirt, both of which will be in the description. We will begin with the slimes. Slimes in Slime Rancher are of course not very powerful, each having a challenge rating of about 1/8. Slimes that are not Largos are not hostile very often. They also speak a language called slime, because I know slimes must communicate with each other somehow, or how else would they stack the way they do. Each slime that are singular and not Largos all start with a base pink slime, making the pink slime the most simple stat block. They are a tiny ooze and a neutral good alignment, with an armor class of 8 and the average hit point total of 11. They are immune to a few conditions such as prone, because they would just squeeze out of it like goop. Restrained, which we learned by Thora West as she talks about trying to lasso a slime, which didn't really work. They also can't be poisoned because they don't have a bloodstream for the poison to work. They also can't go unconscious because in Slime Rancher the slimes don't sleep, and no matter how hard you fucking yeet these little shits, they will not pass out. Pink slimes are the basis for all the other slimes, with a 5 in strength, 14 in dex because they're slippery little boogers, 22 in con because they're resilient, 4 in intelligence because they're not that smart, 4 in wisdom because they're also not that wise, and a 16 in charisma because look at that face. Look at them! They also have the hard to keep ability, which means that if they reach 0 HP, they will dissolve. They are also peaceful, meaning that these slimes are not hostile unless hungry or provoked, such as being attacked or punted like an unwanted child. They also have a water phobia. If they are fully submerged in water in the slime sea, they disappear. They also have a bite attack, because they must munch and crunch their food. But they only do a D4 because let's be honest, these slimes are not that strong. The rock slime is slightly different, having a slightly higher armor class of 10, and having a slightly lower charisma. They also have a ram attack to reference how they hurt the player in game when they're touched. The tabby has a higher charisma because of adorableness and they're based on cats. Of course they're going to have a higher charisma. but also as a reference to Tabaxi's gaining a +1 in charisma when you make a Tabaxi character. Phosphor Slimes have an extra flying speed of 5 feet, because they're not that fast when flying, but they also have a higher dexterity because of their flying, giving them a 17 instead of the average 14. They also gain the illumination ability because they can glow. They shine bright for about 5 feet and dim light for an extra 5 feet. Think of a weaker torch. Honey Slimes have a higher charisma but have a lower dex to exchange for that. This is because having a consistency of honey, I can imagine, can make you a bit slower, but much sweeter. They have a movement speed of 10 because of that though. The Boom Slime was a little special. I made them a bit less dexterous and have 1 point less charisma because no matter if they are peaceful or not, they explode. Because of this, they are given the explosion attack, doing force damage. Dervish Slimes also are a bit different. These boys are pretty damn fast, especially when they're riding on the whirlwinds, so I gave them a base speed of 40 feet and a higher dex of 20. In return, I gave them slightly lower charisma. They also gained the mini whirlwind attack, doing some force damage, similar to the boom attack but in a different form. I then made the Crystal Slime stat block. This one is special because I gave them a larger hit die from a D10 to a D12, so on average they have 1 extra hit point. Huzzah! I also made them into a slightly stronger rock slime. They have a lower dex and charisma to make up for the extra hit point. They also have a crystal shard attack, doing a D8 of piercing damage. The Hunter Slime, to me, was a challenge in one word, and that word is on-demand invisibility. That is more than one word. Why did I write that in the script? I wanted to make sure they could act the way they do in game, but knowing this could be overpowered, I struggled with it. But the more I thought about it, if people were going to play this the same way Slime Rancher would play out, then the Hunter Slimes would have a small film on them, and you'd be able to see their slime eyes. So I decided to give the slime this ability, having confidence in other DMs that they won't abuse it. Which I'm sure I'm going to hear in the comments that was a mistake by some players. They also do get a higher charisma and a lower dex to try to even it out. Rat Slimes are next. Kept the dex lowered so that they could even out their radiation ability. Having it so that someone stays within a Rat Slime's radiation radius for more than 1 minute or 10 rounds, they'll start taking 1d4 force damage until they leave the radius. This can be dangerous for a group of players that are surrounded by the little buggers, but it's hard for it to actually start affecting them. Now we have the Mosaic Slimes, who have a speed of 40 feet and a high as hell charisma. However, their dex is lowered, and they have one of the few ranged slime attacks, the Flame Sparkle, doing a D8 of fire damage. Quantum Slimes have a fairly average stat block, having lower dex to add their incorporeal ability, making it really hard to pin these guys down. Tango Slimes are mainly average, having an average stats again, nothing lowered by the Pink Slime, and has had their bite attack replaced with a Vine Bite attack, doing the same amount of damage, but with a 10-foot range. Gold Slime is where the slimes start to get special. This guy having a 20 dex and a 35 movement speed, and they also have 25 charisma because of their gold composition. They also have the Nibble Escape and the rare No Catch features, meaning they can disengage or hide as a bonus action on its turn, and it's one of the few slimes that cannot be caught with a vac pack. Fire Slimes and Puddle Slimes are special. They both have a speed of 5 feet because the boys don't move very much. They also have the ability called Largo No-Go. Slimes of this kind cannot be found in a Largo form. They start to differentiate a bit with their stats and attacks. Fire Slimes have a dex of 14 compared to the Puddle's 10, while the Puddle has an 18 charisma compared to the Fire's 15. Fire Slimes have an attack called Burning Touch, doing a d4 of fire damage, but Puddle Slimes are a little special. Puddle Slimes are actually the only slime that cannot harm the player, for they do not have a melt, so they cannot bite. They cannot drag anyone down to drown them because they don't have hands. None of that. They are babies, and they should be treated as such. Puddle Slimes also have the ability Water Form instead of Water Phobia, because they can only survive in fresh water, not the slime sea. It is important for the party to know that. I can imagine a quest that a player gets stuck in the slime sea and the other players have to find a way to get them out. Up next is the Lucky Slime. Having an average dex but a 20 charisma, but they make you money, so that makes sense. They have a speed of 25 feet and have a special ability, the Get Rich ability. Having it every time it is fed, it'll drop a single gold piece. DMs, I suggest this limit at 3 to 5 times before the slime screws off. They also have a rare or no catch feature. I know in the Slimepedia it says that no one has been fast enough or skilled enough to catch one, but in the game they cannot be caught, so I made it so that they could not be caught in this situation as well. Quicksilvers are the next and fairly special slime. They are fast as all fuck, having an average speed of 60 feet, meaning that if they take their action to sprint, they can go 120 feet in the span of 6 seconds. 13 miles per hour is pretty damn fast if you're trying to keep up with them on foot. They have the ability Special Flying, because they can only be found in the Nimble Valley. They also have the rare no catch feature with a few extra lines, because in the Slimepedia it says that all known Quicksilver slimes are owned by Mochi Miles in the Nimble Valley. They also have the static shock ability, and no, not that one. Based on how they touch you while having electricity, they can hurt the player doing a d6 of lightning damage. We then have the Saber Slime, which comes as one of the more complicated stat blocks, because they can never be in a tiny form since those kinds of slimes to our knowledge are extinct. We, however, are able to make them into hybrid slimes using their plorts and of the largos we find in the wilds. The stat blocks had to cover almost all angles unless you wanted me to make a stat block for every single largo. That one is on the next page. These slimes, as they are saber, have a stronger bite than most largos, cause look at them chompers. They do a d12 of piercing damage. Depending on what kind of largo they are, they have the ability of said slime they are a largo of. Such as if it was a saber crystal largo, they would have the bite attack with the d12 with the crystal shard attack from the crystal slime. They also have a challenge rating of 4 because with their higher strength, more beefy health, and a slightly higher armor class. Also, don't underestimate the pack tactics ability. Shit can kill you right quick. They also don't speak slime, so have fun with that. Up next are normal largo slimes. These guys are just hungry, and that's how they're taken care of. It has an ability called Aggravated, meaning that they are normally hostile unless they're fed. This will not happen unless they are specifically hunter slimes if they are on your ranch. The stat block is very similar to the Saber Slime Largos, aside from the bite being slightly weaker for not having them chompers. The tar are on the next page and they are a bit more dangerous, but still have counted under the 4 challenge rating. They have the same stats as any normal Largo slime, but instead of the pack tactics, they have a fear aura, because of the way slimes react when the tar is nearby. They also have the ability Split, which means when they consume a slime, they make a second tar, making this creature really fucking dangerous for a party if not handled quickly. They also have the pseudopod attack, doing a d12 bludgeoning damage. Up next in the PDF are plorts. For the plort section, it mostly has flavor text, so the DM can explain the plorts to the characters when they find them. However, some plorts have special abilities if consumed or used. Rock and crystal plorts can be thrown to cause difficult terrain, and phosphor plorts can give you a hover speed and glowing eyes. My favorite, however, is the saber plorts, giving players claws and fangs for the day, but only if they keep it down because it tastes like dirt and bone. The pages also give you a basic explanation of the plort market and average selling prices for plorts, converted into copper, silver, and gold. Up next is the Vac Pack, an item that each player will get after landing in the far ranged. This can hold items or creatures a player wouldn't normally be able to capture, like slimes. It can also hold fruits, veggies, hens, most things that can be found in the far range. It starts with 4 slots and can hold up to 20 items per slot, like in the game. It can be upgraded through the Vac Pack upgrade station found at the base of the players. They can gain a water tank that can allow them to fire water and do damage to the tar. You can get a jetpack to get yourself a hover speed. You can get dash boots to raise your base speed, a heart module to regain health, a tank booster to raise your storage, and even a treasure cracker. I cannot say those words together. These, however, cost gold, so be aware. You can also not use any of these upgrades without wielding the Vac Pack, so make sure your players are aware of that. If they came to the far range, I would just give them proficiency with the Vac Pack, unless you want to challenge them more. Up next is food items, and again, most of it is flavor text. However, each food item you grow can act as a meal because they are so large. The PDF also gives the DM a chart of which foods are a slime's favorite. They also do have some flavor, such as the pogo fruit having a reference to Ray Narvaez Jr. and myself. We then get to the locations in Slime Rancher. If you're just starting out, the players will start off at the ranch. They are given a Vac Pack, a home, 8 plots of land to make farms, corrals, pens, or whatever your players want to use it for. Also, if they wish, they can share these plots, or you can just make the ranch much bigger and give that many plots to each character. My advice as a DM is to give them each a home, but only allow the group 8 plots, so that way they can work together and better on this adventure, knowing that their teamwork will bear more fruit instead of everyone just running off and doing their own thing. There's also ranch expansions, plots of lands that require gold to open, As an example, the grotto can be opened for 175 gold, the players gain 5 extra plots of land for the players to use, and this area has a special property, dark, allowing for phosphorus slimes to be kept there without a solar shield. Under Ranch Expansion are also special areas you can unlock through slime trading, these being Ogin's Retreat, Mochi's Manor, and Victor's Workshop. These can be used by the players when certain conditions are met. Now the areas outside of the ranch. To give an example, we will use the Dry Reef info block. It gives a basic info dump on the area with food that's commonly found there, slimes the players can often find, Gordos in the area, and the amount of treasure pods that can be found there. This is for the DM's use to explain the area while following the maps, as well as allowing them to quickly know what the slimes are there for and what they should be. It's basically a quick reference guide for the DM. Now we get to the special stuff. Special slimes, items, and NPCs. Now this was fun, because I had to be pretty damn creative for some of these. Mostly the NPCs. We will start with a special creature, and the creature I actually had the most trouble with. The Ditto-Faced Slime. The reason I had an issue with this slime, in particular, is because what I stated to begin with in this video. I was not able to find a good quality picture of this guy. I got this picture off the wiki, and it was the best I could find. There was no official art of him, but I did the best I could. These slimes cannot be collected by the backpack, because they just explode into the next stat block of glitched slimes. But these are costumes they hide in. Gold and lucky slimes hold 7 or 8 glitched slimes, while a normal Largo only holds 3 to 5. These can be found in the slimulation. It cannot be caught or raised. These slimes are also considered a construct, so have fun with that. The next is the glitch slime, who are also special, having a speed of 45 feet, a 24 dex, and 10 in con. They also have a special ability called the rare tech catching, meaning when they're caught, they will be stored in the backpack until brought out of the simulation, which they will then turn into bug reports, which can be turned into the NPCs for, in return, some rewards. These slimes can also not be raised. Then comes the Digitars, a bit different from their gooey brethren. They have an ability called Mine, making it so when you are hit by one and you have glitched slimes in your backpack, 1d6 will be launched from your backpack in random directions. These guys have health, but one shot with the debug spray, and they will immediately disappear. Next are the NPCs, and I am honestly most proud of these ones in particular, because I had to be really creative for one reason and one reason only. D&D is a role-playing game, meaning that not everyone will be good, meaning not everyone will be on the NPC's good side, which can eventually lead to conflict and even initiative. I will be sharing the 2 I am most proud of, and the others you can find in the PDF. These 2 are Ogun Ortiz and Victor Humphreys, because the others have very easy things I could use as weapons and powers. Thora West is a veteran slime rancher, which means she could use her backpack better than most. Can most likely understand slimes better than most novices. Mochi has a modified backpack, using thunder and lightning damage, as well as using quicksilver slimes to her advantage. Bob is thoroughly made out of slimes and is obsessed with chickens, meaning he can use them and said slime anatomy to his advantage. These 2, however, I had to be very creative. These NPC pages explain the NPC and give basic trades for the range exchange for the DM to use. Their stat block is where I am proud. Now, if you know Slime Rancher at all, you know Ogun Ortiz is a peaceful but upfront guy. He's basically a respectable vegetable dad. Yeah, he's beefy, but he's also gotten older. That's why he asked the player to go get the kookaburra fruits. He, however, has something I could use. His spicy tofu. The thing that makes his CR go from a 2 to a 5. He has an 18 armor class with 168 HP and a 35 movement speed. He has a whopping 18 in strength, 8 in dex, 17 in con, 13 in intelligence, a 17 in wisdom from his life experience, and a 14 in charisma, because this boy is fucking handsome. He has an ability called Morally Strong, where he refuses to talk to anyone he's aware of that is an evil alignment, because of his past with the food company. He has an ability called Back to the Roots, giving him an advantage on any survival and nature checks. And now the big kahuna, the ability My Special Recipe. This allows him to start the battle with 3d6 cubes of spicy tofu. This is what makes him strong. It's similar to ammo or spell slots for his abilities. He does get some spell casting, only able to cast Druidcraft and Goodberry. I gave it to him because from what he knows from growing vegetables, but it cannot help him in combat. I did give him Burning Hands because of the tofu, but he can only use that once. I also gave him Spicy Tolerance, which gives him resistance to fire damage. Now for the fun. He has an ability called Heat It Up. Using a singular spicy tofu, he can add 1d6 fire damage to one of his unarmed strikes per round. He has multi-attack, which means on average he will do 10 damage per attack or 17 per turn if he does 2 unarmored attacks. At most, he can do 27 damage in a turn. He be doing Hadoukens. He can also throw tofu using up one of his tofus to allow him to have a ranged attack. And then finally, Tofu Blast. This doesn't happen often because it costs 12 tofu, meaning you would have to roll 2 6s on the 3 dice you get to roll to figure out how much. That is because smashing all of the tofu together and throwing it count as a level 3 fireball, aka a Tofu Blast. Next is Victor. Now for me, I saw him as kind of like a final boss if you pissed him off. I honestly wanted to give him a mech suit or something, but I knew that would not fit the character, let alone the world of Slime Rancher. But I decided to go more in character and more into the world of Slime Rancher instead of going through my sheer creativity. He has an armor class of 16, 105 HP, and a speed of 30 feet. He has a base con and strength, but his dex and charisma are a bit higher. He has a 20 in intelligence and 18 in wisdom. He's a scientist. What do you expect? He has a challenge rating of 8, and there is reasons for that. As a scientist, he has an advantage on history and animal handling checks having to do with oozes, or in this case, slimes. He's also given cunning action, because as a scientist, he most likely knows how to hide from an experiment gone wrong. Here's the special stuff. He is a scientist, which means he can use slime science. As an ability once per day, he can place a medipad to heal himself, meaning as of now he is the only NPC that can currently heal himself. He has multi-attack, and has a modified backpack to do force damage with Code Shot. It does 2d6 damage. Manifold Unpack, where basically it's just him throwing a manifold cube at you, and then the final 2 abilities are what gives him his challenge rating, aside from the self-healing and 2d6 force damage. Run Simulation and Dash level 300%. These abilities can only be used once per short or long rest, that's what keeps it balanced. Run Simulation allows Victor to place 1d4 Hydro Turrets and 1d2 Super Hydro Turrets to aid him in battle. These are placed randomly within a 100-foot cube centered on Victor. They act on initiative count 10 and last until they are destroyed or Victor reaches 0 HP. They have their own stat blocks, having a movement speed of 0 and doing a d6 of bludgeoning damage when they fire water at any player. The Super Hydro Turret fires twice. That's now going from 1 target to possibly 7. That's what makes him dangerous. Dash level 300 allows him to place a dash pad, which allows him to move 3 times his movement speed. This can get him out of some tight spots. It also allows him to avoid opportunity attacks, allowing him to get out of being surrounded or to get past someone who is up close. It explodes after 2 rounds, doing 3d6 force damage. This makes him hard to fight and even harder to beat, because he's a slippery fuck. That's why I think he and Orditz should be the final bosses if led up to correctly. Lastly, some special items, such as slime keys and bug reports. Then there are the maps, 2 basic maps that are labeled for the DM's leisure. Now, that's the end of the PDF. Now, I am really excited to be finished with this because I feel like I did a really good job to at least get started with it. I do have a final page where I thank some special people and shout out my channel, because I know people are going to leak this once they get their hands on it, but why not put my name on it like a school report? But with this done, I have to think, what is the next episode going to be? And that, my dear players, is what's going to be up to you. With this video premiering, I'll be posting a channel poll to see what you guys want to see next. The ideas I have is an expansion for this homebrew, for some more detail, maybe a ranger subclass, etc., a Cookie Run Kingdom homebrew with a cookie race, some weapons from the games, and maybe even a magic item or 2. A Bug Snacks homebrew, where I make stat blocks for all the bug snacks, and you can go to Snacktooth on a mission to figure out the mystery behind the island, or some things of that sort. Or maybe a suggestion from the audience that I ask you to comment on the post. Adhere in the comment section of this video. Hopefully what dictates my next video on the channel is what comes from the homebrew will be on that poll. So if you want anything specific to happen, I would suggest voting on that poll. I will leave that in the description. Well, that's the end of this video. Remember, support your local game shops, enjoy your adventures, and roll safely. Safe travels! You'll be 1,000 light